Greetings and salutations. It is I, Mr. Nothing, the museum curator of the weird and the strange, and the host who might be a ghost. Welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the strange and unusual literature that I have found in my travels throughout Caspic. What is Caspic? Well, we'll find out pretty soon. Today I want to talk about a book that I read, an interesting book that is all about mysterious islands, dinosaurs, and weird evolution. I am talking about The Land That Time Forgot, the trilogy by Edgar Rice Burroughs. So here's the cover. It's a pretty interesting cover. A little clock going on with some like Neanderthal grabbing a pretty lady. Then dinosaurs and then a submarine U-boat right there. I'm going to talk about the entire trilogy. I'll provide a more detailed analysis of The Land That Time Forgot, and then I'll provide just like a general summary of the people that time forgot and Out of Time's Abyss, because those were interesting, but I'd like to focus on the first book more. For those that don't know, Edgar Rice Burroughs was a pretty big author, I would say. It seems like he was known for writing, I want to say pulp. Like, maybe that's the wrong term. He was known for writing about distant lands. He wrote the John Carter series, John Carter of Mars, where a Victorian gentleman helps the Martian people fight off an enemy of sorts. And he also wrote about Tarzan, which was like some lord dude who was raised by apes. I'm interested in reading that one because I love the movie, the Disney movie, that is. So I'm a big fan of that, and I wonder if maybe I'll also like the book. Probably not. So this is the first book by Edgar Rice Burroughs that I've read. He was, I've heard of his name a couple times, but he's not as well publicized as other authors. And what particularly drew me to this book was my whole thing I've been on as of late with books that sort of journey into the unknown, which I want to call Verne-lit, after Jules Verne. This is a bit sci-fi though. So I'm talking about Around the World in 80 Days. That's more historically based than anything else. But also Journey to the Center of the Earth and The Lost World by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, which those two books I said fell kind of flat. They weren't that great in my opinion. So I wanted to check this out and see if maybe this was also not great. Maybe I could talk about how the weird mysterious land literature field isn't that solid. That's worth exploring. But maybe I would actually enjoy this, and I could talk about that too. Who would know? So without further ado, I think I will provide a little summary and a little analysis, and we will move on from there. So The Land That Time Forgot focuses on Bowen Tyler. He is, it also takes place during World War I. So Bowen Tyler is operating a merchant ship with his father, and they're sailing across the Atlantic. But when their boat is sunk by a German U-boat, Bowen Tyler manages to survive, but his father unfortunately passes away, and he manages to commandeer the boat, and it's a constant back and forth battle between the Germans and Bowen Tyler's people, some of whom manage to survive, including a lovely lady named Liz, who becomes Bowen's love interest throughout the rest of the series. Ultimately, Bowen manages to commandeer the ship permanently, and so they're sailing across the Atlantic, and they try to wave down some ships for help, but because they're piloting a German U-boat, they don't, the other ships don't believe that the flag they're flying, so they're shoot down those people. So they are heading another direction to see if they can find a way home, and they eventually pass across South America, and they arrive at a strange island, and they actually get stuck going into the island because there's underground tunnels and whatnot. When they get off the U-boat, both the Germans and the Americans encounter dinosaurs, prehistoric creatures. They're attacked from every angle, and they have to basically fight them off. And they eventually establish a fort on this island called Fort Dinosaur, which is a lovely name. And they decide to call the island Caspic. They meet some like neanderthals along the way too, like various like weird subspecies of human who they who help tell them what the island is called in their native tongue. It's essentially landed on Caspic, and so while they're fighting off dinosaurs and other prehistoric creatures, everything wants them dead on this island. They're also trying to learn more about these various human type peoples that are populating the island. At first, the Germans and Americans work together. They establish a truce in order to try to find a way off the island. But while Bowen is working with Liz and this new Neanderthal type creature, while they're working together and they're off doing like various explorations of the island, the Germans manage to get some oil and refine it, and they hop aboard the U-boat and sail away. And it's interesting, like, at the end of this book, like, there's no comeuppance for that. Like, it's just like, the Germans got away, those damn rascals, a little xenophobia, because this book took place in 1918, as the World War I was nearing an end. So there's a lot of anti-German sentiment going around at this time, which I think is important to understand when viewing this book. At one point, Liz is kidnapped, and Bowen manages to track her down. She's with some Neanderthals, and the Neanderthals let her go, and they're eventually separated again, and Bowen discovers more creatures. Like, as he moves further into the island, like these humans become more developed, representing like a different stage of human evolution, and they become more complex and more warring too. Even they're willing to fight with Bowen, who manages to fight them off. So Bowen manages to find some of his crew, but a lot of them have died at this point. And he eventually saves Liz from these creatures. But the story ends with them like not being rescued or anything like that. They're kind of in a troubling place where everything wants them dead, and they eventually get married, and so they're married at the end of the story, which is nice. Although they didn't seem to have a lot in common leading up to that point. And so this leads into the people that time forgot. It focuses on Tom Billings, who is a friend of Bowen Tyler, and so he realizes that Bowen has gone missing, and so he's searching for him in his plane. And I think his plane is attacked by pterodactyls, if I recall correctly. He is so he's kind of stranded on the island too. There seems to be more of a focus on the different tribes in the story, and Tom even finds a woman named Ajor who's on the island, and they become close, and they eventually develop a strong relationship. Eventually, Tom finds Bowen, and Bowen is like, I'm going to leave, and Tom's like, I guess I'll stay with Ajor. She seems like a pretty cool woman, even though we technically aren't the same species or anything like that, so whatever, and that's pretty much where that story ends. And then you have Out of Time's Abyss, which is the final book in the trilogy. This one focuses on Bradley, who led an expedition away from Fort Dinosaur in the first book, and he eventually makes his way back, but not before some of the people in his group end up getting killed by all the animals that want him dead. He does manage to return to Fort Dinosaur, but he's told, the Germans made off with the U-boat, and so good luck getting off this island. He ends up having encounters with Weeru, which are a special type of flying human. I guess the next stage of human evolution or something. Pretty scary monsters. He manages to kill a couple of them. And he also falls in love with a member of their tribe. Again, like, seems kind of repetitive. The Germans eventually come back because they don't have enough resources. And Bradley leads an assault on the Germans. He kills one of them. And he ends up finding Tom from the previous story, and they're all like, okay, we're gonna head back to civilization now. Do you want to come with? And Tom's like, yeah, sure, Azure, we could go. And they eventually find Bo and Tyler, and that's about where the story ends. It ends on a happier note with everyone finally getting off this godforsaken island. In terms of analysis, there's a lot of survival and adventure, just because, like, the moment they get on this island, everything wants to kill them. There's what they describe as plesiosaurs, and like even some of the tamer herbivore dinosaurs. The moment they see the humans, they're like, we got to kill them. They are a problem. And that extends to the various tribes that exist on this island at a time. As it's like the people, like one of their first like thoughts upon seeing the humans is like, let's kill them or let's take them prisoner so they can be slaves or something. And so Bradley and Tom and Bowen, like, they all have to fight off these dinosaurs and these various subspecies of human, to make sure that they don't die and they can eventually get off the planet. And I really like that aspect because it's different from Verne. It's different from The Lost World, where The Lost World felt more like weird colonialism, and Journey to the Center of the Earth felt like a tourism brochure. This one felt like an actual story, like actually 3 stories told as a cohesive whole if you read it all at once like I did. So yeah, I enjoyed that aspect of it. But there's a lot that I thought didn't work. There's a lot of misogyny at play in this story. First with Bowen, and Liz. Like, Liz is made to seem helpless, and she falls for Bowen over the course of the story, despite them having no chemistry and them not resolving the issue at the beginning of the book, which was that Bowen didn't seem to trust Liz. He thought she was a German spy working with the Germans at the time. So it doesn't seem to get resolved, and they just get married at the end, and there doesn't seem to be any progress towards that moment, and that continues in the next couple stories, because all the women that the dudes encounter are competent warriors, and they're made to be inferior just so that the men can appear to be strong, brawny men, tough guys, which I think didn't really work. It especially when you read it 3 times in a row, it starts to get repetitive, and you definitely see it. So I that's probably really prevalent in stories of these times, where you have men going on adventures and saving women. You see that in King Kong's, which I think took a lot of inspiration from this book. As well as a couple of other stories of the time. Lastly, I'll say the 3rd book sucks. The first 2 books are pretty good. The Land That Time Forgot is a solid story of survival and rescuing your woman from the various creatures that want to kill her. And then The People That Time Forgot is a great rescue mission, which I thought was wonderful. And often, how a rescue mission can turn into someone else needing to be rescued. So I thought those first 2 stories were good, but the 3rd one felt kind of repetitive and unnecessary, in that it rehashes everything that happened in the 1st and 2nd book. And it doesn't seem to, Bradley doesn't seem to offer anything new, besides finally being able to leave the island. So yeah, I would say get rid of the 3rd book completely, or rewrite it so that it's about a different aspect of the island, because it was a dredge to read. Other than that, there's not really a lot to say about this book. It seems like it's a cup of black coffee, which is good for a lot of people, but not what a lot of other people are seeking. It feels like pulp, it's just designed for you to read a story about heroic manly men, and then you move on and you don't really think about it too much. If I were to recommend it, I'd say the first 2 books, yeah, absolutely, read the first 2 books. But the third book is probably not essential. None of these books are really essential reading. But I would say, like, if you want to be entertained, the first two books are definitely a go-to. And you can just ignore everything that happens in the third book because they didn't even bother making a movie out of it, but they did make a movie out of the first two books. So there's that. Other than that, like, if you have something to say about this video, if you've read the books before, feel free to comment below. I would love to hear from you, and we can have a discussion about Edgar Rice Burroughs. In the future, I would like to check out Tarzan, mainly to see if like the same like themes pop up. But also, I happen to like the Disney Tarzan, and maybe I think the book would be pretty interesting. If you've read the book, let me know what you thought of it. Otherwise, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that other people can find out about this kind of subpar book that I regret spending 16 minutes talking about so far. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the book. Otherwise, I wish you the best of times in your weird and timeless travels. Farewell.